Hi, hello everyone. So this is my second attempt at making this video because I made the very big bug first time. But anyway, so my apologies for that. But what we're going to try to do is Gaussian blur. And for that effect you can see how it works here. So for example, if I show main scene, nothing is blurred, then we can do vertical and horizontal pass. But let's not worry too much about the details now, so let's just discuss what the blur is. Well, the blur is obviously blur, but how do we achieve it? Well, for that I'm going to use Gaussian blur. So the idea is you take some image, then just blur it. And how it will look like and how it works is it's kind of explained here in this matrix. You can read the whole article if you want, but just for explanation, let's quickly discuss what Gaussian curve is. So that's curve that looks something, well, not exactly like this. It looks more like and then well, it's shaped sort of like bell. Let's imagine this is bell, and then we take, for example, for pixel here, so this is our main pixel, we take the contribution of this pixel, and you can see the value is quite high here. So let's just say that this is some y-axis and this is 0, and let's say this is maybe 2, right? 0.2, sorry. So the contribution of this pixel is quite high. If we move a bit to the left, like it is done in this matrix, so let's focus on this one, right? So let's say that this is the middle one, this one. Then we go a bit to the right, and then we use this value, for example, and then also a bit to the left, right? And we use this value. So then, so we use this and this value. So then we move again to the right and to the left as well, and we take smaller contributions of the pixel, right? So if you imagine that the texture that we sample, this is the main pixel, and then just we move to the right of it and to the left of it, and take the neighboring pixels and multiply by some smaller weight, right? And that's how it works. The kicker is it's in 2D, as you can see here, so it actually looks like this, right? We have our pixels to the right, to the left, and this is the main one. And then we also sample these guys here, right? And these guys here, and then we go further in all directions, right? That you can imagine. And the point is, not the point, the catch is sampling texture like this, right? We will need double for loop, and that's quite expensive in shader. So what we do instead is actually we split the pass into two shaders, one for vertical pass and one for horizontal. For example, we could first blur horizontally, right? And using these values, for example, and then blur vertically using these values. So now these values are not going to be good for what we're trying to do because they won't add up to 1. But I have values that will work, right? Because this is 2D matrix and we're actually sampling just a row and a single column. So the shader is going to work. First we blur horizontally, then we blur vertically, and that should give us effect here. And as you can see, I have, for example, vertical pass or horizontal pass, better yet, and then I do vertical, and then the blur is fully implemented. So let's try to implement all of that. It's actually not that hard, should be fairly straightforward, so let's get to it. First of all, I'll probably try to go with the shader, right? So first we're just going to create single blur shader. So let's just say here, create post-process blur horizontal pass. Just cell. So I'm just going to move this to the right. Alright, we have our horizontal pass. And for shader, we can just copy from one of the previous ones. Let's say grayscale is a good value. So here, so this is just fragment shader. We already had vertex shader here set up for our post-processing, but let's see. We have texture chords, we have texture, so this is our texture that comes in, which is this green texture, and then we just apply effect over it. So for that, I mentioned these weights, and I already had them prepared, so just type them out. The thing is, it actually goes left and right, so this will be sampled left and right of main pixel, right? Every each of these, and this is main pixel sampled once. And this applies also for this value here, this value here, this value here. So let's get to it. So first of all, we're going to need to know how many pixels, what is the value that we need to move to the left and to the right, and that's specified by horizontal, let's say just pixel. And then we need to divide it by texture width. So how do we get texture width? Well, we can use texture size, and I'm casting to vec2 because texture size actually turns integer values, so that's why I'm casting. So we can just say uTexture, paste 0 because we're using base texture, we don't have this level of detail, and then just grab x from it. So this will give us our single pixel offset x direction. All right, then we need to do this main weight here. So let's add texture, texture, the texture coordinates, and we don't have any offset here. So that's our main pixel. So you will see how this works now. And then I'll remove this. We're going to have for loop. I always miss that key. I is less than 5. And we're starting from 1. Why? Because we're sampling now from this value, this, and this. That's the point. So we're going to need to cast our index to float. And then we can say vector to offset. So what's our offset? Well, it's our horizontal pixel times I. So move single pixel to the right, and yeah, just single pixel offset horizontal. All right, then we're going to have sample chords, right? So now we're specifying that move to the right. And so what it is our texture coordinates, right? Where we are in the texture. And then we just move that slightly to the right. Then we move that slightly to the left, so minus. And then we can sample that. So how do we do it? Well, we just say result plus equals, and then texture. And then we use these coordinates, right? Sample. And then similar, we use left, and that's it. So that's everything that we need. And here we can just say result.rgb for red, green, and blue. And that should be it regarding our horizontal pass. So let's try to use it, and then we're going to do vertical. So for that, we're going to need to create our shader. So let's what was it calling them? Blur effect. Blur effect. Yes, and then we're just going to fetch one that we already had. For example, grayscale is good. Copy paste that. And then here we called it post process blur horizontal pass. I haven't added shader suffix, but you can if you want to. And then what we're going to do, I'm just going to rename some stuff. So we can go to rename simple horizontal GL horizontal pass program. All right, so because we're going to need to have multiple passes, so that therefore multiple shaders. So to do vertical. So I'm going to rename buffer as well, because we're going to need 2 frame buffers. So GL horizontal frame buffer, and then we can say that this texture is going to be GL horizontal texture, and let's just move it here and then do the vertical. Let's just first focus on horizontal, and then what we're going to need is buffer remains the same. That's quite all right. With height, all right, I think we're set. This should already work. If I save it and I had effect here, so something is a bit off. Oh well, it's not off. I haven't used it yet. So let's say, what did we have? Texture factory, right? Effects factory. So let's create our effect. Public, create blur effect, and it's not texture effect, it's blur effect. And I copied this, and I haven't renamed it, of course. So it's blur effect rather than texture effect, effects factory, blur effect. And then let's just create it. Let's go to our main, so that we need to use it now. Where are you? Where is const? Let's just say like it's blur effect. Create blur effect. Then what we need to do is use our blur effect. Here it doesn't work. Let's see why. Aha, I missed import. If I save it, still doesn't work. All right, let's see also why. I think it might be something with shader probably. Yeah, classic one. So let's just fix fragment is not compiled. Line 27. To offset. Aha, so I created float value but haven't used it. Alright, it kind of works. We can already see a bit of blur, although I made a bug with the weights somewhere. I'll fix that quickly. I think these weights are not that good, maybe. Moment. Okay, quite obviously. I should have went from 1 because we already sampled the main pixel. So here, no, you don't start from 0, you actually start from 1. So just remember that. And that's it for our horizontal pass. It already works. So let's do vertical pass as well. And for that, we can just create a new shader. Maybe I should do this. Someone mentioned that sometimes zoom is too small. So I'll zoom in as well. So we can just copy horizontal pass and do the vertical pass. So let's see what do we need to fix here. So our weights will remain the same. So we're not sampling. We're not going to sample horizontally anymore. So vertical texel in y direction. So you need to fetch the y here. Okay, this is alright. This is alright. So we're not moving horizontally anymore. So we can say vertical. And then you need to replace this, right? X is now 0, 0. We're going to say up and down. And then just paste up, paste down, and that's it. That's all the changes that you need to do. So instead of pasting horizontal, we're pasting vertically, and then we just need to combine them. And this gets a bit more involved now, but we're going to solve it. So let's say here, let's just paste and rename all of this to vertical. vertical frame buffer and vertical texture. So we need to import that source. So I'm just going to lazily call it source 2, but you can be more specific if you want to. So vertical pass, and then here we just need to create. So this is our horizontal pass program. So let's do here vertical. So we use that fragment shader source 2 and then pass 2. Our vertex shader can remain the same. And then here we already had our util class const result 2. We create our frame buffer and then we assign to vertical frame buffer and to vertical texture from result 2. So that's it. Now we can actually bind it. So what we're going to need, so here it's going to be a bit more involved. So we can leave for now horizontal buffer, frame buffer here, and here what we're going to do is we're not rendering to frame buffer, main frame buffer anymore. So let's comment this out. I'm going to reuse it later, but we're now binding to WebGL bind frame buffer. So which one frame buffer? Well, we're binding to vertical frame buffer, right? We're doing the horizontal pass first, and then we're going to do vertical frame buffer pass. And here we already drew our vertical pass. And then what we're going to do in our vertical pass, now we're going to bind to main frame buffer. And then we're going to do all of this again. So let's just say vertical pass. So here and all right, now I'm going to explain it a bit more. So what we're trying to do is as follows. Moment. So we had our scene texture, right? Which is our scene with the player ship, this, and these meteors, right? And then we feed it to horizontal pass, right? And horizontal pass uses this texture, applies its pass, and then it has output texture. But we use that output texture not to render back to canvas. We actually move it to vertical pass, right? And then vertical pass has output texture, right? Which we use for canvas. So here it's canvas. So that's why we created all of these frame buffers. We actually here we're moving to vertical frame buffer instead of canvas, and then when we're here we're actually binding to canvas and then drawing to canvas. So here we're drawing to vertical frame buffer, here to canvas, right? And then this pass actually applies this second, so it blurs vertically and then it's finally on canvas. So let's do just some values so that we can control all of that. And let's create here do vertical pass, and let's set it true, and then similarly do horizontal pass and set it true. So now I want to control those spaces. So first of all we're going to need to play with bind, and we can remove this clear. It's really not that important because we're always using the scene texture. And if you're doing the horizontal pass, so what do we need to bind? Well, we can leave this, we're binding to horizontal frame buffer. Else if we're doing vertical pass, then we're going to bind to vertical frame buffer. And so if we're doing both passes, if we are doing both passes, we need to bind the horizontal path frame buffer first. Okay, this is important. So this order is important because of how are we going to set it up. So here, let's say if these two horizontal paths, we're going to do all of this. So let's just end it. But here, if we are doing vertical paths, then we need to go to vertical frame buffer. If not, right, then we draw to canvas. If we are doing vertical paths, draw to the vertical frame buffer. So, all right, and then this remains the same, and here we can just say if these two vertical paths, we don't need to worry about the horizontal path here. So if we're doing the vertical path, we can just do this. And then leave this cleanup as it's not important. So, right, that should be it. Now you should be able to control it from our main. If you go somewhere over here, if we say blur effect, do horizontal path is false. It should generally work, but it doesn't. Let's see why. Okay, another bug. Okay, I actually messed it up here already, so I haven't even showcased the main part. Oh my bad. But let's actually showcase. I was so into code that I forgot it to do, but let's just say true. Okay, it applies both passes here, and so if so now what we can do to actually control it is create some kind of effect. Sorry, some kind of UI for it, and let's just remove this up to here. So it's going to horizontal. And it's not, it's input type checkbox. ID is horizontal. Name can be also horizontal. And we can say that it's checked by default. Nope. I somehow pressed something that renamed it a bit. I will probably change my keyboard. I'm missing two way too often. And then we can do same for vertical. So let's just copy paste lazily. Nope, wrong. So let's copy paste this guy, this label and input, and just do vertical. And then in main, we can use those values. So I'm just going to remove these solder effects. You can leave them if you want to. And then document, get element by ID, horizontal, add event listener. So what we're listening is for the click. So whenever we have click, we're going to do blur effect, do horizontal pass is not blur effect, do horizontal pass, right? We're going to flip it, and then we can just say add target, add HTML. Get checked is the value of horizontal pass, and then we can do similar for vertical. Here it's the vertical pass, here as well, here as well. So let's see if it works now. And I should probably remove this. It's a bit annoying. So Alright, that should be it. Perfect. So that's how we do Gaussian blur essentially, and it's just basically two passes combined, right? Drawing to different frame buffer and then using that frame buffer and then going back to the canvas. Okay, that's it. For the next video, we're going actually to use this blur effect in combination with some other effects to get the, for example, bloom shader, which is kind of extracting the values. Anyway, you're going to see it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and you can also join the Discord channel. And I wish you all the best.